Hi, my name is Stephanie Flint, and I am a co-creator of Infinitus Publishing. And normally I do a blog post on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I've been experimenting with when to do my video blog post, and right now I'm trying Mondays. Today I am planning on doing a reading from Magic Stealing. That's what I've been reading from for the past. This will be my fourth time because I'm reading chapter 4. And I'm happy to announce that the updated version of Magic Stealing is now available on Kindle. I also have uploaded it to Smashwords. It may not be through all the distributors just yet, but if you see the map when you go in and do the preview, that the map of Kyrna is in there, then that is the updated version. Also, if you already have the Kindle edition, you should be able to tell it to update, or if you have the Smashwords edition, I believe you should be able to go back to Smashwords and see if you can get an update. Anyways, that's there. Not only that, but I have just today approved the print version for publication, so in the next few days you should see the print edition, like this one here, on sale on Amazon. It is currently available in the CreateSpace store, but it'll take a couple days for Amazon because I just did approve that, but yay, it's up! And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this reading of Magic Stealing. Please let me know if you enjoy it. Chapter 4. The Sears cottage was small, only one story compared to the surrounding 2- and 3-story buildings. Bundles of dried herbs were strung along the wooden rafters that overhung the front porch. Thick canvas had been stretched over the window. Glass was too expensive, since the Seer didn't have the prestige of Academy mages or Kyrian priest. Runes were painted across the canvas, so it likely had some magical property or another, and silver magic scrolls were inlaid into the frame of the door. Darnan knocked. A young girl with a loose braid over her shoulder opened the door. "Yes?" she asked in a lilting voice. Darnan smiled. "Is the Seer here?" Tarana clenched her jaw. The Seer was the last person she wanted to see. "Come in," the girl said, "but my master is troubled." She held a finger to her lips and led them in. They exchanged glances. Troubled? Troubled by what? Tarana didn't really want to know. The inner cottage was a mess of ropes that dangled from the ceiling, pottery and glass on crooked shelves along the walls, flasks of colored water, baskets, jewelry, and bolts of priceless dyed ribbons. A middle-aged man sat hunched on the floor in the midst of the clutter. His fingers played deftly over the loose strings that crisscrossed a ceramic water-filled bowl. Behind him, an odd lump of glass caught Tarana's eye. Multicolored strands rose to the clear surface, glowing and fading like ghosts. Mesmerized, she approached. She reached her fingers toward the glass, itching to hold it. The artifact was something special, important. She extended her fingers to the warm glass. "Stop!" A thick arm wrapped around her and yanked her away. The swirling strands vanished. Tarana gasped, breathless. She didn't remember crossing the room. The Seer turned her to face him. "Are you all right?" "Yeah," she whispered, numb. He searched her face, then nodded appreciatively. His chin and cheeks were covered in brown scruff, unshaven from days of preparation for the festival. He tossed a bolt of cotton across the glass. "Better not to look into the Chota Kachal," he murmured. She blinked. "The what?" "It is an old relic. Name means passage stone in ancient Cantingen. Shouldn't be touched." "It's a stone?" "Didn't look like a stone. More like a crystal, maybe. A really evil crystal." The Seer had even spilled his bowl in his haste to stop her. The strings now lay in a damp tangle, submerged in a shallow pool of water. His apprentice brought a towel to clean the mess. She bit her lip and glanced between Tarana and her master. The Seer stepped back from Tarana. He tilted his head, thoughtful. After he did the same to Darnan, he raised his chin in acknowledgment. "You were the owls?" Tarana blushed, but Darnan nodded. "That's what I came to ask about. You saw us there, and our magic's been different since." "Yes, curious indeed, and not likely for good reasons." The Seer selected a new bowl from the shelves and poured into it a thick, milky liquid. Across the tiny wooden grooves carved along the rim went numerous fresh strings, and then he set the bowl on the floor, and sat with it. Darnan leaned over him. "What kind of magic is that?" "Merely sight." The Seer sighed. "I can't manipulate strings, if that's what you're wondering." Darren's shoulders slumped. "Ah. So what do you usually scry?" "Across the land." The seer smiled. Tirana followed their gaze into the white liquid, though she kept her distance. She'd already been caught in Magic's lair once today, and she didn't want to know what might have happened if the seer hadn't been there to stop her. "Where's that?" Darnan asked, pointing to the liquid. The seer looked up, his mouth parted in surprise. "You can see that?" Darnan nodded. "Given that your father brought us the show to Cachal, I suppose I shouldn't be surprised." The seer took a deep breath. "Alea, come here, please." "My father?" Darnan asked, his eyes wide. The apprentice hurried to the seer's side. "Bring me a scroll and ribbons," the seer instructed her. "Yellow for Ifa. I need you to deliver a message." She half bowed and rushed through a stream of cloth ribbons leading to the back room. The seer turned his attention to Darnan and nodded. "He came several years ago, before he disappeared." Darnan fidgeted, shifting on his feet. "If the stone is important, why not take it to the priest?" "Your father didn't say, but the gracious Ifa confirmed what he told me. I wasn't to tell anyone, not unless she gifted you with part of her magic." Tirana's jaw dropped. What? Why would she do that?" "So someone did bless us?" Darnan asked. "Given the circumstances, I'm not sure it's a blessing." The seer turned to Tirana and gestured to the scrying bowl. "Can you see?" Tirana shook her head quickly. "I don't have the sight." The seer raised an eyebrow in disapproval. "Have you tried since last night?" "I'm not trained." "Does not matter. Take a look." Tirana wrung her fingers nervously. "Just try it," Darnan said quietly. "It may be important." Wretched trickster, she thought sourly. The gods just loved playing their games. "Fine." She inched toward the seer and peered over his shoulder. The water was milk murky, no vision to behold. "Try manipulating the strings," the seer instructed. "I don't know how." Darnan crossed his arms and glared at her. "You're being a baby. You'd happily challenge a champion duelist to try something magical, and you're absolutely helpless." "Excuse me," she snapped. She hated magic, hated illusions, and hated that magic was a rift between them. It wasn't fair. Darnan could see magic naturally, more or less. A semi-failed spell had left him with permanent sight. For him, the ribbons were a natural part of life. But not for her. She had to use that stupid crystal just so she could see them. The seer's apprentice returned with a scroll and quill, and the seer excused himself. Darnan crouched beside Tirana. "I'm sorry for calling you a baby. But really, what are you so afraid of?" Tirana ignored him and stared at the opaque liquid. She would not prove him right, even if he had been a jerk. She twisted her lips, clearing her mind like Xiglana taught her. How could her sister be so selfish to leave? She had everything right here. Tirana slammed her fist on the wooden floorboard. "This is stupid. We shouldn't have gone to the parade." Darnan groaned. "For the love of Shawl, would you just try already?" "I did." "No, you got distracted. Try again." "I don't want to try again." She clenched her jaw and then her hands. "All I want is to be a swordsman. Wish I could get away from here." "Lady Kavana Leno, never!" The spear spun, his scroll raised in his hand like a flail. "You don't make wishes, ever." He thrust his scroll at the apprentice, who cringed and hurried outside the cottage. The seer narrowed his dark eyes. "You especially don't make wishes when you have new magic, untested and unclaimed. What if you had stream magic, or something forbidden? You might set events you cannot control, as I'm afraid he's going to do." He pointed to the bowl. Tirana hunched her shoulders. More magic. More stupid magic. The milky liquid shifted in the bowl. She shrieked and jumped to the wall. The white pool was replaced with a mountain. A tawny ledge of rock extended over the grassy field below, and a shadowy figure struck a sword over an anvil. Fire blazed in the pit beside him. Translucent yellow ribbon streamed from the blacksmith to the flames, calling them to life around the sword. A fire mage. She turned to the seer, mouth agape. "Who is that? What's he doing?" The seer leaned against the table and rubbed his forehead. "The mage's name is Kofrash. I should guess he knew your father." He waved his hand to Darnan. Darnan placed his hand on Tirana's shoulder and glanced uneasily toward the cloth-covered stone behind them. Suddenly the water shone white, blasting outward in cold flames. White fire licked the walls. Tirana threw her hand over her eyes, and Darnan shrieked in pain. The seer groaned. Magical vapors rose from his body, twisting as they fled through the wall and vanished. He collapsed to his hands and knees, then crashed to the floor altogether. More colorful ribbons lifted from the enchanted bowls and ropes. Shouts of dismay rose from the streets. Squinting, Darnan ran to the door. "Everybody's magic is leaving them." Joanna gaped at him and then at the walls. She could actually see faint ribbons in the distance, rising from their masters. The ribbons streamed into the sky, a dazzling array of colors, then fled east, away from the city in a glaring river. She looked at the bowl again and blinked her eyes to clear the spots. She had to know what was going on. The liquid had gone milky white, but if she could see what was happening! She ran her fingers along the strings at the top of the water. One here, one there. The tips of her fingers tingled as lavender wisps flooded the bowl. The image swirled, faint. The mountain forge reappeared. The man held his sword fixed between both hands, raised to the sky. His feet were spread strong under his shoulders. Ribbons streamed to his sword from across the kingdom. The sword glowed bright and brighter, and as the screams outside died into a disjointed murmur, the sword faded, and the image darkened. The water was clear now, devoid of life. Everyone's magic had fled into the stranger's sword. Joanna withdrew her fingers. "You still have magic?" Darren whispered. Joanna looked up from the bowl and stared at him. Bright iridescent ribbons raced around his body. "So do you." Joanna trembled, too shaky to stand. "You can see my magic?" She nodded. "I saw everyone's magic disappear. Must be something I forgave you." Darren swallowed hard and knelt beside the fallen seer. He pressed his forefinger to the man's throat, then let out a slow breath. "How is he?" Joanna asked. "Dead." Darren wiped his hand nervously across his breeches. "The loss of his magic must have killed him."